Okay, so last week we started studying trigonometry, which is all about right triangles. And we were looking at SOHCAHTOA, which SOHCAHTOA is not an actual word, but SOHCAHTOA is used to just help us know whether we're doing sine or cosine or tangent. So we have our foldable of notes, and if you don't have that, it's okay. You can just write things down in your journal. Last week, we practiced how to set this up, and then how to find a missing side. And so this week, we're turning on the back, and we're going to learn how to find a missing angle. Okay? So, we're going to do these three problems that are on the back of your foldable, if you have that. If you don't have it, draw this in your notes. We are looking to find the measure of angle Z. Alright, so step by step. The first thing we want to do is we want to look at our triangle, and where angle Z is right there, we want to write down theta. And then we're going to label our sides just as we did before. So across from the right angle is the hypotenuse, and across from theta is the opposite. And then we're going to choose a trig function. So if I have H and O, right, then that's going to be sine. Because again, I look over on SOHCAHTOA, if I have opposite and hypotenuse, that's going to be sine. So then I'm going to write down my problem. Sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. My little formula goes like that. And now I'm going to fill in all the parts that I know. So I'm going to write down sine. I don't know what theta is, so I draw theta, equals, and then leave a little space here. You'll see why in a minute. Put your fraction bar. And then you just have to put your numerator and denominator in the correct places. So the opposite is 3, and the hypotenuse here is 9. Alright. So here's my equation. I want this theta to be by itself, which means I have to get rid of a sine function. So remember, when we get rid of things, we do the inverse. Like adding and subtracting undo each other, multiplying and dividing undo each other, squaring and square rooting undo each other. So what undoes a sine is a thing called inverse sine. It's a sine with a -1. And you put that on both sides. So inverse sine and sine, these two things undo each other. And so theta is left all alone. And so once you get your variable alone, that's when it's time to use your calculator. Now, your inverse sine is written in blue on top of the regular sine. Right? So that's where it is. So when I turn my calculator on, I'm going to press second and the sine button. Right? Second sine, and that's going to give me inverse sine. And now these calculators are a little bit picky with this. They want this to be written as a fraction. So we're going to do alpha y equals, and hit enter. And now there's a fraction. Okay? And so we're going to put 3 there and 9 on the bottom. And then we're going to close our parentheses. Now, if you actually just have a 3 and 9 and you type 3 divided by 9, your calculator is going to be okay with that one. But when we do our IXL and you get some square roots and some other more complicated numbers, your calculator's going to want it written like that. So we just might as well get used to it. Then we're going to hit enter. And then we're going to round. So you have to, if it says round to the nearest tenth, that 7 would tell you to raise the score. So I could write 19.5 degrees. So if it says round to the nearest tenth, that would be my answer. But sometimes with angles, it just says round to the nearest degree. So the nearest degree would just be 19 degrees. So if it just says the nearest degree, that means it wants a whole number. So depending on your instructions, one of those two would be your correct answer. Okay? Alright, we're going to do 2 more examples together. By the time we're done these examples, you'll have the hang of it. So here's our next example. If you don't have a foldable, draw it in your notes. This time it says find the measure of angle Y. So I'm going to go where angle Y is, and I'm going to write down the theta. And then I'm going to label my sides. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And then this side right here is touching theta, so it is adjacent, ABJ. And so if I have hypotenuse and adjacent, if I have the H and the A, that's going to be cosine. So I'm going to write down cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Hard part's over. Now we're just putting everything in its spot. Cosine theta equals, leave a space, adjacent is 3, hypotenuse is 9. If I want to know what theta is, I have to do inverse cosine on the left and inverse cosine on the right. The inverse cosine and the cosine, they undo each other, and the theta comes down all alone. Once your variable is alone, that's when it's time to get your calculator. So I want inverse cosine. Inverse cosine is in blue on top of cosine. So I'm going to press second, cosine, and then I need my fraction. Alpha y equals, and it's 3 over 9. 3, 9, close my parentheses, hit enter. Alright, so if it said to the nearest tenth, I would put 70.5 degrees. That's if it said to the tenth. But if it said to the nearest degree, right, if it said to the nearest degree, this 5 would say to round that 70 up to 71. So if it says nearest degree, it would be 71 degrees. Alright, last example. Find the measure of angle E. Steps are the same. Go to where the angle E is and mark your theta. Alright, across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. Do you see that I don't even have a number on the hypotenuse? I'm not even going to use hypotenuse. No hypotenuse, right, in the song? So across from the theta is opposite, and next to the theta touching this theta right here is adjacent, ABJ. So if I have opposite and adjacent, that's the SOHCAHTOA, right? That's the TOA part. That's tangent. So we're going to write tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. And we're going to write tangent of theta equals, leave a little space. Alright, opposite goes on top this time. So that's 14. Adjacent is going to go on the denominator, the bottom. Alright, I want to get this theta by itself. I need to get rid of tangent. Guess what? There's a thing called inverse tangent. Put it on both sides. Inverse tangent and tangent, those guys undo each other. Theta comes down by itself. I'll put that up a little bit. Once theta's by itself, it's time to go to a calculator. So my calculator, you see where tangent is, there's inverse tangent written in blue. So I'm going to press second tangent, that's inverse tangent. I'm going to press alpha y equals enter to get my little fraction. And then I'm going to type in 14 and 8. Close my parentheses there. Alright, 60 point. Alright, if I wanted to round to the 10th place, right, it would be 60.3. That's if it says round to the nearest 10th. But if it says round to the nearest degree, well, then I look and I said, look on the 60, I look to the right, I see a 2, 4 less, let it rest. It would be 60 degrees. So the answer just depends on what it asks you to round to. Alright, so you've got your foldable, right? You're going to label your theta, label your sides, look on your foldable, see which one of these it is. You see, every single time if you're looking for a theta, you're going to do an inverse function. Inverse is here on your calculator, and then you just see what to round to. Okay?